The golden age of Hollywood was built on silence as much as glamour. While the cameras rolled on perfect romances and heroic endings, the studio system operated a ruthlessly efficient machine designed to make felonies disappear. Murder, illicit affairs, and predatory behavior were treated as simple problems to be fixed, rather than career-ending events. MGM manufactured a reality where their stars were untouchable gods, even when they had blood on their hands. From the secret $100,000 payoff that saved a screen legend, to the studio-mandated drug addictions that destroyed another, these are the true stories the Dream Factory spent millions to bury forever. You need to understand the mechanism that hid these scandals before we discuss the incidents themselves. In 1930s Los Angeles, the police chief answered to men like Eddie Mannix and Howard Strickling, rather than the mayor. These fixers for MGM had the sole job of scrubbing the crime scenes of the rich and famous. When a star crashed a car, Mannix arrived before the ambulance. If an actress got pregnant, Strickling arranged the appendectomy at a private hospital. They held the keys to the city by bribing district attorneys and burying evidence to ensure the public only saw the immaculate image the studio wanted them to see. They kept the stories you are about to hear hidden for decades. Joan Crawford was the epitome of class, but her path to stardom had a detour MGM was desperate to erase. Before she became a household name, a teenage Crawford had allegedly appeared in a stag film titled Velvet Lips. In 1935, blackmailers surfaced with the negatives just as her fame peaked, threatening to burn her career to the ground. Eddie Mannix did not call the police. He reportedly authorized the payment of $100,000, a staggering sum in the Depression era, to the mobsters holding the film. The studio bought every known print and burned them in the MGM incinerator. Crawford remained a star, but she owed her survival to the fact that the studio valued her box office returns more than the law. Clark Gable and Loretta Young began an affair while filming Call of the Wild in the freezing snows of Washington State in 1935, resulting in a pregnancy. This was a catastrophe because Gable was married and Young was a devout Catholic who refused to consider abortion. The studio orchestrated a complex ruse to hide the evidence. Young disappeared into seclusion for an illness and secretly gave birth to a daughter named Judy. She placed the baby in an orphanage for 19 months before publicly adopting her own biological child. Judy Lewis grew up not knowing the man who visited her house once and asked to see her ears was actually her father. The truth only emerged after Young died decades later. The world remembers the Tramp as a lovable clown, but Charlie Chaplin's private life followed a disturbing pattern of targeting minors. He married 16-year-old Mildred Harris at 29 and 16-year-old Lita Gray at 35. His fourth wife, Una O'Neill, was just 18 when she married the 54-year-old star. The Joan Barry paternity suit in the 1940s nearly destroyed him. Prosecutors charged him under the Mann Act for crossing state lines for immoral purposes, effectively arguing he was trafficking women. While he was acquitted, the image of the gentle comedian was shattered. The FBI, led by J. Edgar Hoover, used these scandals to revoke his re-entry permit to the United States in 1952, exiling him for 20 years. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications if you are fascinated by the dark history Hollywood tried to hide. We are digging up new secrets every week, so let us get back to the scandals. Judy Garland was pushed into addiction by executives who saw her as a product rather than a child. During the filming of The Wizard of Oz, the studio needed her to have boundless energy while remaining unnaturally thin. Their solution was a chemical regime of amphetamines to keep her dancing for 18 hours a day, followed by barbiturates to knock her out for 4 hours of sleep. They called them pep pills, but they were hard drugs. This cycle, enforced by studio doctors, rewired her metabolism and brain chemistry before she was even an adult. The tragedy of her later life was the direct result of a corporate strategy, rather than a personal failure. One of the darkest secrets involved the death of Ted Healy, the creator of the Three Stooges. On December 21, 1937, Healy was celebrating the birth of his son at the Trocadero nightclub when an argument broke out in the parking lot with 3 men. Witnesses stated that future Bond producer Cubby Broccoli, mob figure Pat DiCicco, and beloved MGM star Wallace Beery beat Healy savagely and kicked him in the head. He died hours later. Beery was MGM's second highest grossing actor, so Mannix stepped in immediately. The story was changed to college boys attacking Healy, and Beery was quietly packed off to Europe for 4 months until the heat died down. No one was ever charged for the killing. Gloria Grahame, the sultry star of It's a Wonderful Life, destroyed her career with a scandal that even Hollywood could not stomach. In 1951, her husband, director Nicholas Ray, came home to find Grahame in bed with his 13-year-old son from a previous marriage, Anthony Ray. The marriage to Nicholas imploded, but the story did not end there. 9 years later, Grahame reconnected with her former stepson and married him. The press went nuclear. She was blacklisted by a public that found the relationship too disturbing to ignore, rather than by a studio decree. She underwent electroshock therapy during the fallout, as a star broken by a taboo love story she refused to hide. Police rushed to the Beverly Hills home of Lana Turner on Good Friday in 1958 to find the body of mobster Johnny Stompanato on the bedroom floor. He had been stabbed once in the stomach. The killer was Turner's 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane. The official story claimed that Cheryl grabbed a kitchen knife to defend her mother after hearing Stompanato threaten to cut her face. The press called it a tragedy, but whispers in Hollywood suggested that Turner had done the deed and the daughter took the fall, because a minor would not face the electric chair. Cheryl was acquitted as a justifiable homicide, but the shadow of that night hung over Turner's career forever. Media tycoon William Randolph Hearst hosted a birthday party in 1924 on his yacht, the Oneida. The guest list included Charlie Chaplin, Marion Davies, and the father of the Western, Thomas Ince. Only Ince did not make it back alive. The official cause of death was heart failure brought on by indigestion, but rumors swirled immediately that Hearst fired a gun at Chaplin and accidentally hit Ince instead. He was allegedly jealous of an affair between his mistress Davies and the comedian. Ince's body was cremated the next morning before an autopsy could be performed, and Hearst newspapers never mentioned the party. It remains Hollywood's greatest unsolved mystery. An affair is tabloid fodder today, but in 1950, it was a matter for the United States Senate. Ingrid Bergman was America's saint as the nun in The Bells of St. Mary's. When she left her husband for Italian director Roberto Rossellini and became pregnant out of wedlock, the backlash was biblical. Senator Edwin C. Johnson took the floor of the Senate to denounce her as a powerful influence for evil and a cultist of free love. The fervor was so intense that Bergman was effectively exiled from Hollywood for years. This was a moral panic orchestrated by a government that believed it had the right to police the private lives of artists. Jean Harlow was the blonde bombshell, but her husband, Paul Bern, was found dead in their home just 2 months after their wedding in 1932. He was naked and shot in the head, with a note nearby stating this was the only way to make good the frightful wrong he had done her. MGM security chief Whitey Hendry arrived before the police and allegedly tampered with the scene. The studio spun a narrative that Bern was impotent and killed himself out of shame. Many believed the suicide note was actually an old apology letter and that Bern had been murdered by a deranged common-law wife the studio knew about but ignored. Being gay was treated as a crime rather than just a career killer in the 1950s. Rock Hudson was the ultimate heartthrob, but rumors about his sexuality were beginning to circulate. His agent, Henry Wilson, a man who specialized in creating beefcake stars, orchestrated a solution to silence them. He arranged for Hudson to marry his own secretary, Phyllis Gates. The wedding was a public relations masterstroke that bought Hudson decades of cover. The facade finally crumbled when he contracted AIDS in the 1980s. The tragedy is that Hudson had to live a lie, constructed by his own management just to be allowed to work. Mary Astor's scandal involved a book rather than a murder. During a custody battle in 1936, her ex-husband threatened to release her personal diary, written in purple ink. The diary allegedly contained graphic details of her affair with playwright George S. Kaufman, grading his performance against other Hollywood lovers. The press went into a frenzy, but the public, surprisingly, did not turn on her. They loved the candor. The judge eventually ordered the diary sealed and burned, so we will never know exactly what was in those pages. It remains the first time a star's private intimacy was weaponized so publicly in a court of law. We end with the scandal that created the need for fixers in the first place. Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle was the highest paid star in the world in 1921, until a party at the St. Francis Hotel ended with the death of actress Virginia Rapay. She died of a ruptured bladder, and Arbuckle was accused of raping and crushing her. He was tried 3 times. The first 2 trials ended in hung juries, and the third ended in acquittal, with a written apology from the jury for the injustice done to him. The studios banned him anyway to appease moral censors. His destruction taught Hollywood that guilt does not matter as much as perception. The studio system eventually collapsed, and the power of the fixers faded with it. TMZ and social media make the kind of total cover-ups we have discussed impossible today. These stories serve as a reminder that the Golden Age was a carefully curated fiction, purchased with hush money and maintained by fear. Click that subscribe button if you want to explore more of history's hidden chapters, because we have plenty more secrets to uncover together.